Hello, welcome back to another episode of Holton Talks. You're joined as always by me, Scott Acton, Jamie Acton, and we've got a special guest on tonight from the Every Week We Follow podcast, Gary. Gary, welcome.
Well, boys, thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Jamie, you okay?
Little plug in the mug, look. There you go.
Oh yeah, there it is. Straight into it. Yeah, we've got Gary on just to get his thoughts and feelings on Villa at the moment. It's a bit the mood isn't great. But before we get into Villa, we'll start with just your little journey, Gary. Yeah, you got into getting involved talking about Villa and the fan analysis stuff that you've just got into.
Yeah, so like I say, it's one of them. We were just briefly chatting off camera. So about 8-9 months ago, December last year, I think James and I decided to kind of start a podcast. Like we'd chatted about it for probably 3 years previous. Never got round to it. Was like many Villa fans watching the content that's already out there. We'd said to each other numerous times at Villa Park, both season ticket holders, similar to you guys, travel to the games together, come back to the games together. Always Monday morning after a weekend game, we'd be on the phone to each other, picking it apart or whatever. And we said a couple of times, we should just, for a crack, why don't we just start a podcast? And then he was busy with work, I was busy looking after my daughter. We never kind of got it together. And then, like I say, last December, we just went, oh, come on, let's just do it. Let's just give it a go and see what happens. And so we did. And if you go back and watch the first episode of our podcast, by the way, it's absolutely shocking. It's probably not much better now, if I'm honest. But it just kind of, I think what it did after the first episode was going, actually, we really enjoyed doing that. So let's just carry on. And it was kind of like, I don't care who watches. If no one watches, actually, this is a fun way to just spend your time. And if I'm honest, if I'm going to be completely vulnerable about it, like I'd gone through quite a dark time with my daughter being ill and stuff and all that kind of thing, and I needed an outlet. And I think I've got to a point where I've either got to go back to work full time or look at other avenues to try and kind of get an income stream. And we're a million miles off that at the moment, but I think it's been really encouraging over the last 8 months that how quickly our channel grew. In that it went from 30, 40 people kind of tuning in to then, I don't know, and you guys will probably know this now as you're getting into it, but if you're on YouTube as a podcast, like you've got to hit certain criteria to kind of get ads and earn money and all that kind of stuff, and it's all about watch hours, and so you end up down under that YouTube studio, and you're constantly each week watching that kind of get to that point, get to that next thing, and so but it gives you little certain goals, and when you get to that, I think you, just like anything, it's consistency and just practice talking about something that we ultimately all love. And I think for me, what I always said to James was, if you look at all the content out there, like it feels like people are trying to be, the next Sky Sports pundit and kind of pick things apart tactically. And, and as much as I'm a Villa fan and think I know my stuff about football, played football all my life, love it. Like, I'm not a pundit. I don't want to be a pundit. What I am is an absolute boyhood fan of Villa for the last 40 years. And can we have a bit of fun being as authentic as possible, just chatting about the stuff that we see on a daily basis. And you look at what's out there and go, well, if they can do it, well, why can't we do it? Like, it's like they started with nothing. The only difference I can see is they've had if you look at the top podcast, Villa on Tour, Up the Villa, 1874, they've been doing it for like 7-8 years. Do you know what I mean? And so you go, actually, they've had time to grow with the internet and kind of grow with the social media presence in football. But I think now's the time to do it. Lots of people say it's saturated, but I think in a great way, because there's so much content to be consumed and people want it. If you look at Villa, aren't the only team that have got multiple channels out there and stuff like that. We've been lucky enough to be, like you guys have invited me on. I've been on Newcastle pods. I've been on Crystal Palace podcasts. Everyone's doing the same sort of thing, mate. And it's like most of it is just generating that talk around the game and giving people a voice, which is what we don't get really, do we? Do you know what I mean? And actually, it's one of them bringing people together. Like you said to me off camera, like you kind of, when you travel with your mates or your family, which most people do to Villa Park, you have the same opinions week in, week out. So it's nice to have an outlet where you go, well, actually, that's a different perspective. I haven't thought about that, or I hadn't thought about that, and it brings up debate, doesn't it? So I love it. Which kind of it moves us on to the fanalyst kind of stuff. It was just kind of right place, right time. So for those of you who don't know, right, because it's still a bit early doors yet, because technically the Fanalysis app hasn't been launched. Like, I think the actual launch will be in November after week game 10. What they're doing at the moment, it's out there, and so we've been selected as part of the starting Villa 11. So each Premier League club has a starting 11, which is supposed to give those people the platform to generate conversation after games. So we're supposed to give match reviews, player ratings, and then Sky Sports are using that data to kind of, and they've started to do that on Monday Night Football, like Team of the Week, where we're going to finish in the league. And I think that's the kind of basis of it. They've now invited between 300 and 500 founding fan lists across the Premier League to what I assume is put data into the app. So when it is launched in November, anybody that looks at their team, there'll be match reviews, player ratings to kind of look at and kind of have your opinion on it. And then you should be able to comment on those and kind of, whether you agree or disagree. And I think the way it's supposed to work is that us as a starting 11 will be able to generate that conversation, and then, like, for instance, if you go, it's Gary from the starting 11, let's have a look at what he's written this week. You can like it, it gives us an opportunity to grow our platform, and kind of people might want to see more or dislike it and not like whatever. It's all about engagement, right? That's what it is. It's all clicks. So, but it's a real great opportunity, and what's really been beneficial in the last couple of weeks since the beta has launched and people have got access to it, is that we've been able to speak to other clubs' fans, and get it from their perspective. We've got like a group now where we're all chatting about stuff, and everyone's like really helpful and supportive. Obviously just passionate football fans that want to talk about football. And the basic idea of it is that it's been launched by Michael McIntyre, the comedian, and it's backed by Gary Neville. He's financing it, and it was. The story is that Michael McIntyre and his son, both massive Spurs fans, wanted a safe space for people to talk about football. Because obviously you go on, X is the best platform for this. It's obviously full of hate and people just being horrible and, stuff that you don't really need to be seen. And I think he wanted a safe platform for his son. So the thought process is that every football fan can go to their club, look at what's being said, and I guess it's monitored to a point where it's you're talking just about your club and having those opinions, that it's a safe space to do that, where it's not going to be full of, actually, because you've got verified fans that aren't there to spread hate. It's to talk about the team and talk about individual players and actual have debates that are healthy and constructive, right? Which is kind of what we all want without all the nonsense. I think we could all do without the abuse and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, even now, even though it's only been going, technically we're only in week 1, right, of the league, because we've had 2 games. It's 1 week, is it really? And various fan lists have been selected for Sky Sports coverage from other clubs. And mate, the hate on Twitter is unreal, or X, sorry, right? It just kind of these bunch of mummies don't know what they're talking about, and we've a couple of the fan lists from other teams have gone, I don't know if I want this, like I've been told to go and die on Twitter, for instance, and just go, you've got to ignore that kind of stuff, right? Just move out, because ultimately, it's what you all want to achieve. It's if they are taking people on, like I said, they've got these founding fan lists now. If it's an opportunity, we've been lucky in terms of getting on the ground level, that we've been given these 12-month contracts as a starting 11, and it's up to us to keep the engagement, keep going. And I've no doubt if Sky want to kind of go, actually, we're bored of you, your content's not good enough or whatever, we'll move you on and invite somebody else in. So it may well be like that. I don't know. They seem very pleasant at the moment, and kind of it's all going really well. But what it is that platform, like I say, to really kind of drive conversation, drive debate, and get people talking about football, and actually having a real input into Sky Sports. Because as much as I love Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher talking about the Villa after we've played, it's kind of, what Fanalysis is aimed to do is to have the fan input. And if I can get it right, because, like I said to you, what I don't want to see from Fanalysis, this is, I don't know if this is going to get me the sack, but is kind of, we've got the pundits, right? Now, what I'd love to see is that the actual fans of each club actually really get a chance to be on the platform, be on Sky, be on YouTube, be on podcasts, to actually give a true fan reflection. Because that's the whole point why people watch podcasts, right, and watch their team's podcasts, because I think you get more of an authentic kind of feel of what's going on within, because most of us are season ticket holders. You go and see it week in, week out, and you get a more detailed and accurate description of players
Yeah.
and teams, right?
There's definitely a frustration as well. I mean, I've seen like from different Villa when you hear a Gary Neville or a Carragher or different kind of pundits talk Villa, and I'm sure other teams have this frustration. A lot of the stuff they're saying you don't necessarily agree with because they're
Yeah,
taking it off a clip that they've seen for, I don't know, a couple of minutes. They don't really have an understanding of what's going on behind the scenes in terms of everything else. And you'll listen to something and you'll think it's not 100% true, and that is what you're putting out to the wider audience, which people then believe. But actually, it's like the fans that go every week. I like the idea of it for that reason because I think you'll
yeah,
get a true reflection of actually what's going on. The people that are on it are getting they've got a lot more understanding about their clubs. Like I said, I'm sure it's not just Villa
100%.
fans.
Yeah, I think across the board, I think what you'll see eventually, by the time this app gets launched out to the public in November, is that the player ratings that the fanalysts do will actually be compared to the pundits' player ratings. Like I think,
Yeah,
like so, the pundits will do like their reviews on player, and then you'll get an actual reflection. So if I think it will hopefully up the game of the actual pundits in the studio to go. Actually,
yeah,
we're in a way we're being evaluated here because if you can imagine after a couple of games, if the pundits are a mile off what the analysts are saying, then what games are you watching? And
yeah,
why the pundits will always have, well, I've got the experience of playing X, Y, and Z for years, or it's not. We both know it's a very different kind of thing to watching a team occasionally, which what the pundits do. So as you said there, where you go in each week, you've got an absolute true reflection of watching a game for 90 minutes each week and giving a true reflection of what you've seen. And I think that's what the whole point of the engagement of the app is that you, and why we were vetted and had to go through the audition experience, because you want authentic fans that are going to hopefully bring a balanced view. Because that's what you want. Because it'd be easy for me to, slag off certain Villa players or kind of, overhype others because they're my favourites or whatever. But I think what it will hopefully bring is a balanced overall view to the team of each Premier
yeah,
League club, and you get that. And it's I said in the interview, I said, if this works and you get this right, this could revolutionise football, and it could
yeah,
revolutionise every sport because you could sell it for any sport. You could do it for rugby, you could do it for tennis, you could do it for cricket. You could you could have fans actually. It's a way that I think more than ever with social media, there's a massive calling for it. So it's nice that they're
yeah,
doing it. It's just about how it develops and how it looks and getting it right. So it's going to be a really interesting kind of first few months, I think, and after November, we'll have more of an idea of how it's going to look and how it's going to impact the data within how they analyse games on Sky. So yeah, either way, it's exciting. I like it's a massive
yeah. Very
opportunity,
exciting.
and I think we just got lucky. The story is like we when James and I started the channel, obviously we were comparing our. I think and comparison is the thief of joy, right? You look at the others and how successful they've been, and you go, "Ah, no one's watching this," and it feels like that. But you're just consistent. You go, "Okay, I know we've got something because we're being authentic. We're having a laugh, right? We're not taking ourselves too seriously." And we had an email out of the blue. I think it was in April time, just before we played Palace in the FA Cup semi-final, to say, we're doing some filming for the FA Cup. We've seen your stuff on YouTube. I think it was they'd seen it, and would you be interested in doing some filming if Villa were to get through to the FA Cup final? And me and James were like, yeah, 100%. I think if we're there, we're going to be going anyway. So kind of, yeah, we're up for it. And obviously, we all know how that Palace game went, and we didn't get through to the final.
Yeah, less said about that, the better.
3-0 on your big day out. Oh, God, mate,
Yeah,
embarrassing. Right. And then I cheekily just messaged the producer and said, well, that didn't exactly go according to plan. But, let us know if there's anything else kind of in the pipeline. And he said, well, funny you should mention. And a couple of weeks later, I got another email saying, well, there's something new coming. It's really exciting. Can't tell too much about it, but there's potentially an audition day coming up in, I think it was May. Like, if you're interested, like, just let us know. And of course, like, yes, we did. And then James and I got invited to London. I think it was on May the 14th, something like that. Went down for the day. We were, it was staggered out, and it was basically 2-hour audition where we had to sit with a bunch of Villa fans between 6 and 9 in a room. They gave various questions for us to answer, and we had to debate them. It was all filmed, and they did a couple of little individual bits as well. And then they're like, well, we'll be in touch to see if you've got through to the next stage. A couple of weeks later, we got asked to send in some I think it was like a minute video of us describing how we became a Villa fan, what we loved most about the club, our prediction were for the future, and all that kind of stuff. And then when they wanted all our socials to probably, I don't know, make sure we're not kind of, spreading any hate crime or hate or anything like that. And then we basically got an email to say, yeah, you're in. And we had to have a couple of most surreal moment. We had to go on a Zoom call with Michael McIntyre while he kind of, congratulate us on getting it. And like I say, I don't know where it's going to go, but they're incredibly passionate about it. Gary Neville sent a video message and basically said, "Look, this could revolutionise football. We don't know how successful it's going to be, but the more successful it is, the more beneficial it is for you guys. So, if it takes off, then at the very least, even okay, we might not make any money out of it, but it's going to hopefully grow the platform. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. And I think
100%.
it's a central place for us all to kind of go. And even if you don't want to interact with the fanalyst stuff, it's going to give you a platform to go and look at who's talking about it, who you might like, to give you an option to go and view their content. So it's like almost having a central database. So yeah, it's exciting.
I think, yeah, like I said, I think it's a good idea. I think really now Sky are probably looking at different ways that they can, move it on each season. And like I said, from my point of view, and I'm sure loads of other teams, you listen to your team being spoken about, and like I touched on before, and you think, it's not really a true reflection. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the fall down is that they're very good talking United and Liverpool and, City and so the so-called,
The Big Six cartel,
the Big Six, and I'm sure we've all got our own opinions on that, but I think in terms of, your Villas, even teams like Brightons and Evertons and stuff like that, you'll get a truer reflection to actually what is going on. So in terms of that,
100%.
I mean, I think it's a great idea, and fair play to both of you for getting in the starting 11, as you called it.
Yeah, well, mate, the thing is, I think there'll be opportunities for people like yourselves to kind of register with them, kind of keep yourself in the in and around that. If you can get in becoming a founding fanalist, because it gives you an opportunity to kind of put some stuff in there. Who knows? The bigger it gets, they might ask for more people to do. There's bound to be opportunities there. So I think it's just staying in the know, really, and the fact that they've done something like that, I guess it's opening doors, because if anything, for me, you start to network. Like all of a sudden, you guys message me. Like I've had other people message me on TikTok and stuff. And just like for the reason I started the podcast is I love talking about the Villa, so I'm happy to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's sort of so why not? We can all help each other. I hope that everyone has that attitude, rather, because I do worry. Maybe I'm a bit naive that you think are people just going to be out for themselves and stabbing each other in the back just to get that ultimate Sky contract. Do you know what I mean? But at the moment, it seems all very much kind of driven by true passionate fans that want to support and help each other grow. And so it's a slow start, but it's a positive one. Let's see where it goes.
Yeah, no, good luck to you and to James as well. Fingers crossed it takes right off and you'll be flying. I only reached out because I like that you're singing at the start of all your videos.
Hey, it's got to be done, isn't it? It's got to be done. They call it in the book, I think. Every week we follow rebels in Clara and Blue. Mate, I've done. The thing is, like I say, I'm not taking myself too seriously, mate. I just kind of let's just have some fun with it. It's like nothing I wouldn't do in the ground, so why not? Do you know what I mean? It's funny because I've got teenage kids and they're all like, "Oh, Dad, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm here just to embarrass you, babies. That's it. That's all." I'm like, and now it's all over social media. Like my daughter plays for Mansfield Town under 15 girls. Right, she's playing at a decent standard now, and basically all her football team follow me. And when I go and watch her play, they're like, "Oh, I saw you on TikTok last night. I've watched you live." Like, I was like, and my daughter's like, "Oh, Dad, you're so embarrassing." I was like, "Yep, that's my job to you." So obviously you've got kids yourself, mate. As they come up, like you'll have that opportunity. It's brilliant.
Oh no, yeah. Well, my eldest is 11, and she's kind of like loving the fact that I've gone onto TikTok. I mean, Jamie hasn't got kids yet, but he's like godparents to one of mine. He's godparents to one of Aaron, who's on holiday. He's normally with us, so he gets a little idea. They're still younger, but yeah. Yeah.
it's worth it just for them, mate. Because I think that's the way. It's the way of the world, isn't it? Everyone's online, so you might as well kind of give a little bit back. I don't know, and just have some fun while you're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, our mission is to try and get like my dad's in his 60s now, trying to get him into TikTok to actually start realizing that there's loads of different content out there. He's made an account for himself, but hasn't realized that he's made an account for himself and is adamant that it wasn't him. That's what we're dealing with.
Fair play. Well, do you know what? That's a funny you should say, because we one of our biggest viewed episodes last season was when we played Nottingham Forest at home, right? And we got James's in-laws were all massive Forest fans, and we got James's father-in-law and his mate, who were both in their late 60s, early 70s, right? And it got like I think it was like nearly 5,000 views, right? And it blew us away because we'd have nowhere near that. I was like, okay, we haven't done anything different. We've just got two opposing fans on who are basically old enough to be our dads. But I think people really like that in terms of they had stuff to say like that. It was quite funny because the father-in-law's friend was basically miles away from his camera, right? And kind of like when we first started, mate, just bring that a little bit closer because you look like you're kind of in another room. And it's just but it's all about growth, isn't it? And I think he really enjoyed it. And I think he's even though he's a massive Forest fan, has watched our pod and commented on stuff for what we've done. And I think that's what we tried to do. We tried to be open to everyone. While we're obviously primarily talking about Villa, like we want the interaction with the other fans, and we've managed to. Some you don't want. Stay away from Man City fans. Stay away from Man United fans. Honestly, like the pair of right, they're on a different planet to how entitled they feel they are, right? Not all of them, because if you've got any Man United fans, Man City fans, not all of you, but the majority of you.
Yeah,
Jesus, chill out.
We had, I think our first guest was before the Man United game, wasn't it, Jay? And he's like my best friend, and I thought I know what he's like, but he actually come on and he was quite level-headed, which surprised me. He's the only opposition fan that we've had on so far.
Like I said, there are diamonds in the rough, mate, and you can find them, but the majority of them, like
definitely no Man City.
Yeah, the keyboard warriors. It's the keyboard warriors. They just kind of do it for kind of a reaction, don't they? But I think that's the other thing that's really good. Like, what we're trying to build with Fanalysis is to kind of look at getting more opposing fans onto the pod to have a talk about the preview and get their opposing views. And if you can do that and reach out to people, most people just want to do it and jump on, and it just gives you that other avenue of a different perspective, And we've had some. Best fans by a country mile, Newcastle and Crystal Palace. Like by a country mile, honestly, really level-headed, really kind of encouraging. I think mainly because from the Newcastle side of stuff, there's so many similarities between the two clubs, and we're not a million miles away from each other. Although watching Newcastle yesterday, they're a million miles ahead of us, like in terms of where we're at. And we'll get into that. But the opposing fans, if you can get them and they're willing to kind of give you a level-headed debate. It's great content. It really is, because you can have those banterish kind of, I don't know, not hatred comments, but there's the Newcastle fan that we had on was great, and we still hasn't forgiven us for relegating them back in 2009. Like and that's one of my best Villa memories. Villa Park, watching Alan Shearer cry his eyes out. Do you know what I mean? Like, bye. They haven't quite forgiven us for that, but they've given us a spanking a couple of times at James's Park, so they've had their own back.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I mean, no, it's like I said, we've obviously just started doing it. We're predominantly me and Jamie, and my brother jumps on as well. And we just love talking about Villa. And the aim is to try and get Jamie's dad and my dad on. If we can get them on, that'd be great content.
They don't even know how the phone works.
This is the trouble. This is the trouble.
Mate, well, can you imagine that in itself will be great content? Imagine that as a YouTube short or a little TikTok video of them trying to get on.
Do you know the worst thing? They'll come in and my old man will be sat here like this, like, Jay, where are you? I can't see you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
You're on about your old man Ant saying about, we know get him on TikTok. He still calls it a Tic Tac or whatever, doesn't he? He's like, I'm not on this Tic Tac. Like,
it'd be comedy gold. He could have his own channel, but one day, baby. Right,
then you'll be like a sub of them, mate. You'll be kind of following.
That'll be they'll be on.
They would have just zoomed past us. we'll
Mate, I've got a name for it already. My old man's a Villa fan. Do you know what I mean? Look, it's just kind of it's written in the stars, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
Right, welcome to another episode of My Old Man's a Villa Fan. We're here today, joined by
Yeah, it'd be so good. It would be so good. Right, we'll stop with all the happy, positive stuff, and we will get into Villa as we stand right now. I watched your episode earlier, saying maybe a Villa fans being a little bit overreactive. Jay, I'll come to you just because it's the most quietest I've ever heard you on one of ours.
I'm listening. I'm enjoying this.
Taking it in. He's absorbing.
He's taking it all in. Are Villa fans being overreactive? I've listened to a couple of different pods over the weekend and yesterday and today and whatnot. I think most are trying to be level-headed. Again, like you said, Gary, X is a different story. Is it an overreaction, Jay, or is it just let's get to the end of the window, take stock of where we're at then, and then go again after the international break?
Yeah, from my perspective, I'm not overreacting. Again, you look on Twitter, you see everyone overreacts. You know, if we go and beat Palace, we beat them 4-0, everyone, all of a sudden we're going to qualify for Champions League, and then if we lose, then all of a sudden Unai needs to sack. Like It's just that's Twitter. But from my personal perspective, I'm not overreacting. The only thing that I find a bit odd is how I can say we've started. You know, that first half against Newcastle was strange, I think, and then how we having both Mings and Torres play in that Brentford game again for me was a bit wild. I thought, you know, he went with Buba in game for the Newcastle one, and then I thought he would have played Bogard, but then you know he goes with neither, and he puts Ty out there, who was arguably our man of the match against Newcastle, but then he moves him over one. He's never played on the right before. I've never seen him play on the right before, so it didn't really make sense. The team selections are off. I think we can all see that. I think we're all learning the cruel way how stubborn Unai is at times. You know, we're having, not having crying out for pace in the side, crying out for Rodgers to be central, and yet you've got McGinn, who I love McGinn. I think he's one of my favourite players, but he's not a winger. You know, to play on that right hand side. You know, we spoke about it. A few times, Scott. You know, Leon Bailey was so good in that Champions League run, the season we qualified for Champions League, because he was perfect to be an isolated 1v1. He could cut in, he could go down the line. He's perfect because he had pace and he could beat a man 1v1. McGinn can't beat a man 1v1, so being isolated, his only resort is to cut back. But when he cuts back, if Cash is making up a back three, he's not overlapping or underlapping. You know, you're screwing Guinea, so it's not to Guinea's fault. And again, I don't believe Rodgers. You know, if he's central of playing off of Watkins, he's arguably our best player. So, you know, you build a team around, you know, Tielemans being slightly deeper and having Morgan playing off of Ollie. You know, that right there, I think that's the foundations we need to work off, and then also having, you know, the Ty and Ez at the back. But yeah, I'm not overreacting. It's just the only thing that I find slightly weird is the team selections and the way we're setting up for games. Like the way we are, teams are scared to play us, but yet we set up so. I don't know, it's not naive, but we set up as if we're the ones that should be scared. Like Newcastle, you know, we're not pressing from the front. We're kind of sitting in and playing it safe, just circling it around the back. And then at Brentford, you know, we're not getting stuck in. We're not getting at them. It's just like, you know, I think, you know, you watched Newcastle last night. They go down to 10 men. Yeah, different managers' ideas and philosophies, but they go down to 10 men at home. It looked like they're the one with 11 men and Newcastle at 10 men. We go down to 10 men. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll sit in and we'll take a point.
Yeah,
I can't disagree with a lot of that. I find it. I've said this probably even though we had a great end to last season, right, and we won 8 out of 9 games, bar the Palace and the Man United game where we just didn't show up, right, and 2 of the worst performances that I've seen. But I would argue that even in those games we were a bit fortunate in results. But the thing that we lack completely, like you just mentioned there about Newcastle, is the just the desire and the will to go and win a football match. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of, we haven't got a bad squad. We suddenly haven't turned into a bad team. That's a Champions League team, right? But what we've done it is this year because of. Obviously, I don't even want to say the acronyms because it just like they start to depress me. But you know, we've just lost 3 players right in a week. No, one doesn't count because it's dead donker, right? But you lose that player. Then Bailey goes out on loan. Then we sell JJ, right? And all of a sudden, not that these players are first team starters, but we've got no depth in the squad. And like you alluded to there, Jay, is that there's no width in the team at the moment, and that's set up when. Particularly against Brentford, mate. As soon as the team sheet came out, I thought we're going to lose this game. It's the right. We had a Brentford fan on the pod last week, and we said like, "Who are your danger men?" Like, and he mentioned Damsgaard and I can't pronounce his name. Otter, whatever his name is, who scored the goal.
Yeah,
Dango, Katara.
Right, Katara, right? Who is, he said he's full of pace, and then you see Torres' name on the team sheet, and you go, he can't run. Like, he literally can't run. And you look at the goal, right, it's worse than schoolboy defending. Like, he commits himself way too early. And, he beats him for pace. He goes to ground. And why is he going to ground? Chase the man back. Like, I don't... It played into their hands. And then they just kind of know that we're probably the better side and sit back for the next 80-odd minutes. Do you know what I mean? And kind of... We are literally playing with no tempo, no width. And so what you mentioned about McGinn, we're just playing it across the back 4. The interesting stat about Saturday's game against Brentford was person with the most passes. Can you guess who it was?
I don't know, Nana.
No, it was Torres, right? But if you look at where those passes went, it was probably between him and Mings. And now I'm not blaming it on them in terms of, but you then look at what's in front of you, right? And so you mentioned Onana. Like, for me, disappointing performance from him on Saturday. He was up against Jordan Henderson. This guy is a 6'4" monster. Why is he not like dominating, like just running through people? Like, he can do it. Like, that performance against Bournemouth away at the end of last season, he was absolutely outstanding. Like, he filled in for Tielemans and he just was up and down the park, bossed the game completely. And we all know, I think if you know anything about football, that it's about consistency, right? So it's about these little things, these players that need to do something in games that gives us the momentum, because it inspires everybody. Like you said about Rodgers, the first 2 games of the season for me, he's been terrible. Like, he's just not been in the game. Like, he and obviously he's Emery's golden child, and he has moments in each game where you think, oh, okay, he can do something, he can turn the game on his head. But as a fan, right, and we spoke about this earlier about being authentic. I don't necessarily care about results. And like, it's about how we play, like, because that determines results. So if you've got a team of players that are playing for each other, working their nuts off, right, chasing everything down. So we play one of 2 ways, right? We're either playing out from the back, right, and we want to control possession, which means you've got to try and play through the lines. If you're going to do that, you need movement in the middle, you need movement out wide to be able to feed those passes, right? Because if you don't, you just end up hitting a wall. So teams will either press us high because they know that we'll make a mistake because movement's poor and we haven't got that outlet, or they back off us and we just struggle to break teams down because there's very little movement going on with stretching defenders because we don't move the ball quick enough. It's kind of, it's slowly sideways progression, and it's kind of, let's keep the ball. And so we had 76% possession on Saturday, but 2 shots on target for the whole game. Like, it's kind of, it's being hypercritical, but even with the players that we've got, you go, is there now something that's in that dressing room that's dissolving slightly, maybe? Because, if you look at the comments about the JJ sale, for instance, well, it's very rare that players go public about a sale of a player. Mings and McGinn being the 2 that came out, but everyone commented on it. Like, it's like we've been forced to sell a player that we probably didn't want to sell, right? And he didn't probably want to go, but we've had to do it because it's balancing the books. And you don't know if players are going, I don't want that. They're only human at the end of the day. They've obviously got friendship bonds, groups, and when you start taking key players that JJ's probably. I've met JJ a couple of times at Acorns. He's a top guy, mate. Him and McGinn, you can probably sense in that dressing room are probably 2 big characters, and you've just taken one out.
Yeah.
People will say, "Oh, JJ stats have been poor for the last 2 seasons." Yes, but he's been coming back from a foot injury, and it's only been
Yeah.
a foot injury. It's not as if he's got a reoccurring muscle injury, which means he's going to be out for time. This season
Yeah.
could have been a big season for JJ for us, and now
Yeah.
we've lost that left-hand sided kind of impetus. We could have done with him on Saturday, someone to run at the Brentford
100%.
defence, and now we look at, which then brings me on to the 2 players that look like they've got any bit of pace aren't being used. We've signed Gassard. We've got Marlon, who sits on like. Has Marlon slept with his wife or something? What's going on?
Well, I don't. What has he got to do to get start? I mean, we spoke about it on a couple of other ones. We do not know what it's either, and I mean, we spoke about it before. It's either Emery's brought him in and he doesn't fancy him as a right winger, and he sees him more as a 9, and maybe he doesn't want Ollie. He's thinking, all right, he's nowhere near as good as Ollie, but he's the only one. I'm not saying he's even like Usain Bolt pace, but he's the only one that has any kind of pace. I mean, when Gasson come on, I thought he was direct. He wanted to take his man on fine, and I kind of get maybe.
I thought he was man of the match.
Yeah,
Like he was the only one that looked like he was trying to make something happen.
100%. But Marlon, every time that Marlon comes on, he looks like he's going to do something in every game that he's played. He looked sharp in pre-season. I mean, what he's got to do, like you said, maybe he has slept with Uno's wife or his daughter or something like that. Who knows what's gone on? Something's definitely gone on.
It would be laddish if he has.
Yeah.
Jay, I don't know. You disappeared, Jay. I can't see you. You blacked out.
For whatever reason on my screen, I'm frozen, but I'm just going to carry on. I don't know what's
okay, yeah, carry on. It's fine. I thought you'd gone.
Got Emery on the phone and gone, "Hey, that Casemiro who you follow, he's dropping all the hints."
That's it. Yeah.
You see, what I'd like to see with that, if you think about it, right, if you look at all the great Premier League teams over the last few seasons, mainly Liverpool, Man City, right, Arsenal, that their front fluidity in their team, right, whether it just moves like they're not set positions, right? Now, Ollie, has obviously been told to play down the middle, but we all know he can play on the left too. Right, so you've got 3 players. You've got Gassard, who he can play across the front 3. Right, that's why we've bought him. So he can play on the right, he can play down the middle, he can play on the left. Right, you've got Marlon, who obviously isn't a naturally wide player on the right, but can play centrally. So why can't you just say, okay, we start with Gassard on the left, Marlon on the right, and Ollie down the middle. But you know what, right? Gassard, you go over to the right, Marlon down the middle, Ollie on the left. It just brings a little bit of dimension.
Yeah, rotate it up slightly.
Get them working in training as a front 4, right, to cause teams. Because then you've got, what you'll do is you free up Rodgers behind them to get him in the dangerous area, which we all know, if you feed him the ball in between the halfway line and the edge of the box, he's going to cause problems. The guy's an absolute
100%.
animal. Do you know what I mean? Mate, honestly, I can feel my head getting super frustrated because, again, I'm not no master tactician, but that for me just seems basic. And
it is.
A little bit of me feels like teams have started to work us out how to play against us. So it's kind of like, if we just drop deep, they'll never break us down. So for the teams that are in the bottom half, they just go, right, we'll part of the bus. And the teams that can play go, well, we're just going to press the shit out of you, and you'll make a mistake because we don't move the ball quick enough.
Yeah,
it's
I think the big issue from the Newcastle game was, and we touched on it when we done the pod review in the Newcastle game, was when you've got Kamara and Onana playing as the 2 pivots, we're too slow. They can't. Yuri, when he plays there, can pinch. You can punch the ball through the lines, get it on the half turn to your Rodgers. Obviously not Ramsey anymore, but that. In them kind of areas. And I know Yuri dropped back there for the Brentford game, but by that point, we were already 1-0 down, and they were sitting with 10 behind the ball. It just made no sense. And the fact that he brought Buendia on, and I'm not Buendia's biggest fan, but he had a good pre-season, but that just made no sense. Surely you just bite the bullet, stick Marlon on, and just say, we're 1-0 down, we're going to go for it.
Well, mate, from the start, if you think, right, we covered this on the Brentford preview on ours, right, we said that, and we had a Brentford fan on, right, and he said, we are a team in transition, right, we've lost our manager, we've lost Mbeumo, Whistler's refusing to play, like, we're literally on the back foot. They'd just been hammered by Forest, they got blown away. He said, he was happy with their second half performance last week against Forest, so he said, there's something there, like, we've got the makings of something, but we're a team in transition. And James, I said to him, so like, I feel, if we pick the right team and we go at you, we've got a great chance of beating you, right?
Yeah.
But then, like as I said earlier, once the selection came out, I was like, why couldn't he have just gone? Okay, look, they're in this period of transition. Let's go at them. Let's play with that front four. Gassard. Now, Gassard might, because historically Emery hasn't used new players straight away. Like he beds them in, he takes them time, right? And you go, okay, but we are short on numbers. And you go, even if he's not match fit, right, give him 60 minutes, right? Let him run it ragged, and then bring like Buendia on or whatever, And to have, like I say, if we're going to do anything this season, we've got. It feels to me like James and I, when we did the preview for the season, I said I think with one or two players we'll be all right, right? And Gassard came in, and you go, okay, an attacking player that can play across the front three. Brilliant, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if we can get a right-sided defender or a centre back, that might be enough. But now, because we're not utilising that right-hand side, is just weak at the moment. It feels weak to me. Like Cash has done okay in the first two games, but it's. I mean, he argues he's probably been our best player apart from the horrible ball against Newcastle, which I don't. Again, if we go back to that, I don't know what the fuck he saw there, mate.
No,
we have 5 players in the box. Anyway, right, I digress. But you go, I've got a right-handed side there. As much as I wasn't Bailey's biggest fan, if I'm honest, like you say, in that 23-24 season, he was unplayable. Thought he was superb. But let's face it, he's had 3. This would have been his 4th season, 3 seasons, 1 really good, 2 very mediocre. And I thought last season he was awful, and he got given so much game time. And he, whether it was a confidence thing, I think he really missed Diaby. I think Diaby was a great motivator for him. Not only when they were in the squad together, they linked up really well, but like they were competition for that place. They both had pace, which then they would draw players towards them, which meant it freed up Rodgers to be more free. And that's what we have. That's what we're severely lacking. We need some pace in this team, man. And it's frustrating because I feel like Marlon and Gassard are probably the 2 players that have got it, but we're not utilising them. I don't like it. And maybe it's a long-term thing. Maybe they are going to be used. But if you look at the way our fixtures rise, and I know we've got to play every team anyway twice, right? But this start of the season was actually not the hardest compared to everybody, right? And you go, these first 4 games actually was a great chance to probably get 9 points on the board, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And now we're probably going to be happy if we can get 4. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of. And then you start once you start getting to that Christmas period, we've got tough run-ins, and the end of the season is tough. Once you've got European fixtures kicking off as well, unless we bring, I'm praying this week we've got, this could be a very different conversation this time next week. Emery could work his magic. We get 2 loan signing ins. It gives us some options. We beat Palace, right, and everything's looking rosy again. But if lose that Palace game. Mate, I'm worried because ultimately, if you're Palace, right, you go in. Well, these are our team. We'll just steamroller these. Like if he picks Torres, Mateta was probably going to go really thinking, I'm going to eat that Spanish man for breakfast.
We surely can't pick Torres. Surely after the FA Cup semi-final, he's got to just knock that on the head and say, Conte's got to come back in. He's our best defender next to Mings. I mean, I know Jamie agrees. Maatsen, I think, has to play. I like Luka Dean, but just again pace and a bit more
100%, mate.
A bit more dynamic down that side. He's got to surely. I love Emery, but surely he must think in his head, I've got it wrong tactically or maybe personnel-wise for the first 2 games. We need to get a win before the international break. That's a must. You can't go into the international break on 2 points or 1 point, or even worse, we've not even scored a goal yet.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Because psychologically, it feeds into the team, and
100%.
This league is unforgiving, mate. And if you go 6-7 games without any points on the board, no goals, you're playing catch up already. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of, and like my prediction for the season, like I did say, like I imagine that Emery's going all out for the Europa League. I think it almost solves all our problems. It's a massive risk because I think it will affect our league status, right? I think I said top half finish, Europa League into the Champions League will literally save us in terms of this time next year. Will be I think we'll have money to spend. I think our revenue is going to go up this year. I think the sale of the women's team quashes that kind of the FFP stuff, but it's just the squad race ratio. We've got to sort out this wage bill. So we have got to consolidate this year. Any deals that's going to happen between now and the end of the week are going to have to be loan deals, probably, right? Or that doesn't put the wage bill up any higher. I mean, I've got a feeling that we might do that, buy one player and take the hit because it's going to be a financial hit rather than the points thing because it's coming from UEFA. And then once that's out of the way, if you get Champions League football, like, you've got a bigger part. It's just it attracts the players. You've got more money
Yeah.
to spend. The revenue goes up again. And that's what we're aiming for. That's what that's what the owners have spoke about since they come here. We want to be competing regularly in the Champions League, and
Yeah.
obviously that's easier said than done. But we
Oh,
can't be
100%,
selling our
yeah.
best players every bloody year.
No, of course you can't. And I mean, I think, is it something like, since Emery, the windows that he's had, he's made a 10 million net a
Well,
profit
yeah,
on.
six
And
transfer windows, mate. We made 10 million quid.
yeah, you can't, how you're meant to compete. And listen, we could have a bloody whole day conversation about PSR and how
Yeah,
it all
yeah,
works and how bad it is. But like you said, the squad that we got now is, it finished outside of the Champions League on goal difference. We've not sold all of our players. Yes, we've lost Ramsey. Wouldn't have liked to have done that. A couple more.
yeah.
Um, but I read today we've got 21 first team players. I think Fulham had 23 and there was someone on 25. Everyone else had 27 plus. Now, to make up
Yeah.
6 players is a massive, we're not going to sign 6 players. Or we're not, I imagine we
No.
maybe 2. I'll
Yeah.
try and make it a little bit more positive. If you had your way, Gary, is there anyone that you'd like to think an attainable target that you'd like to see us bring in? Loan deal or
Oh, that's
or
a
I
good
know
question.
I'm throwing you on the spot here.
You are throwing me on the spot, mate. I've thought about it a lot because when you say attainable, there isn't a great deal out there, mate. Like, in terms of
No,
if you're thinking what's attainable, what we could afford, right? So, and this will be a controversial one, but I think if we can get Asensio back, right, and I know this because and it's not pure. I would use him as a squad player rather than the starter, right? Because what I don't want to see is what happened in that Palace semi-final where Rodgers goes out to the right and you're trying to incorporate Asensio in the middle, right? But I just think through his experience of what he brings to the team, like he's a. I mean, look how the way he started in that loan spell was, mate. I've never seen a player down it. Like, I thought he was
yeah,
absolutely world class.
yeah, he
Touch,
was.
movement off the ball was absolutely like some of the best football I've seen at Villa Park. Now, obviously, he went off the ball a little bit, but he did initially link up really well with Rodgers. And again,
Yeah,
if we're talking about that fluidity of a front three, right, where you could, say to Asensio, right, okay, occupy that right hand side for a little bit, but mix it up rather than kind of keeping it. It's about getting the buy-in, right? But
yeah,
I think if you've got him fully fit, he's a player that's worthy of having in any squad. Again, he's aging, and is it attainable with wages? And it might be another loan deal. It looks like it could still be on the cards. Like
yeah,
the Fenerbahce thing doesn't seem to be happening. He obviously liked his time at the Villa. Emery rates him, and then the other one is Nicholas Jackson. Now I know that's been thrown around quite a bit, and I see a little bit of momentum in that because I don't know if you guys remember at the start of last season when he was when Maresca took over at Chelsea, he was interviewed on Sky, and they basically said to him, "Who's the best coach you've worked on?" Now, most sensible players probably would have said, "Oh, I'm buzzing to
yeah.
be working
My
with this new
current one.
manager," like sort of thing. But he was like, "No, it's Unai Emery. I owe everything to Unai Emery. The player I am today is because of him. Like I can't thank him enough. Like he's one of the best coaches in world football. They've got that connection from Villarreal. Now, obviously, I just think I don't think that will happen purely on the money side of it, mate.
Yeah,
Chelsea have valued him at 80 to 100 million, right? And so
yeah,
we can't have someone unless we can get a loan deal that Chelsea are prepared to pay a massive chunk of his wages. I don't see that happening. But out of those two, I'd go with Asensio, just again for the experience. But again, Jackson brings that attacking threat. However, the downside to that is that we all know that Ollie, when he's got someone that he's competing with for a spot, just seems to go into no man's land, and
yeah.
we need him to have a big year. I'm really hopeful for Ollie this year. Watched him in pre-season. I went to the Roma game at Warsaw, mate, and I thought he was sensational. I thought that
Yeah,
first half of football
he's
was
looked
brilliant.
very sharp. He's very sharp in pre-season,
Mm.
Ollie. I mean,
So we call it buts and maybes, but yeah,
I don't disagree with either of them. I would have, when we spoke about it quite a lot on our Villa chat about Asensio, I would have Asensio back in a heartbeat. I know he tailed off towards the end of the loan, and I don't think you could
yeah,
expect him to play 40, 50 games throughout the thing. But if you were getting 30, 35 from him, and, like you said, that the first 11, 12 games of that loan, he was absolutely incredible. And I don't think he's that old.
Ma-
Was he 30, 31? great experience.
Yeah, mate. Like,
You know,
mate, we're not
I don't
talking
even
about
think he's 31.
old-fashioned footballers now, where they're retiring at 30 because they've been
no,
drinking too much. They're athletes. Do you know what I mean? They're
yeah,
athletes at 30.
that's it.
Like, you know, if you look after yourself, you can. Ronaldo's. I know it's extreme, but you look at Ronaldo at 41. You know, it goes either way, don't they? Because they either stop doing stuff or you work your ass off to stay
Yeah,
fit. And like you say, you
yeah,
get 30 games out of him. Like, quality's permanent, like class is permanent, and those first, like say, 11 or 12 games, I don't think I've seen a better player in a Villa shirt, mate.
no, no, it was
What I loved
unreal.
about him and what I think he brings is it's not what he does on the ball, it's what he did off the ball. His movement off the ball was world class, like
Yeah,
moving defenders out of the way. And you look at when you're trying to break teams down, it's what you need. You've got to have play,
yeah,
like, and what that does, that filters to other players. It improved Rogers, it improved Watkins, it improved Rashford. Like they all like they saved us really because we're going
yeah,
through a bit of a lull before they came in January, didn't they? You know, I think it also caused a bit of disruption because Ollie threw his toys out the pram, which was I didn't agree with because I think you only throw your toys out the pram is if you're performing at the highest level. And
yeah, it
Watkins
wasn't.
for me, as much as I love him and he's put up numbers, I know he was gutted not to play in the PSG games, but he had like a run of 5 games in between those games, and he was shocking, mate. I think
Yeah, yeah,
Fulham at home was nobody for me. I was like, he's like he never played football before. Couldn't control the ball, couldn't hold it up. Movement was
yeah,
poor. I was like, what am I watching here? Like it,
yeah,
and like I say, for me as a fan, I just want to see these players turn up and put 120% in. And like if you mess up, then you make a mistake, you miss a chance. Don't care about that.
yeah,
Like it's coaching 101. Like you even from as a kid, like it's how you react to mistakes. It's how you kind of but when you're dealing with millionaire prima donnas, they just think there's something special, and you go,
yeah,
you're playing for this. This is what you're playing for. This is what you
yeah,
pay to see. You'll come and go, mate. We're going to be here forever. Watkins will come and go and leave. There'll be another one that we'll get behind. I think we have to get behind the players, but they've got to be open to the criticism. Like Ollie missed 33 big chances last year. Like, and we're talking one-on-one chances. Now, even if he takes half of them, we're in the Champions League, mate.
yeah,
Comfortably, we're finishing 4th, 3rd, maybe,
yeah,
and that's what. So we need to be clinical, and that's the other thing. Like, can Ollie do it this year? Like in pre-season, looked wonderfully sharp, and I predicted on our show I'd love him to get 20 Premier League goals this year. He's capable of doing it. He's just got to be clinical, and
yeah,
get in the practice nets, mate. Keep practicing shooting. Work out what you do because we are ultimately. I don't know about you guys. I think one of the things that bothers me the most about the Villa is that we don't shoot from outside the area. Like it's
no,
been
no,
coached into us to kind of,
no,
it's almost like what John Duran got
perfect
moved
goal.
on. Hey, mate, no one is shooting from 30 yards and scoring top bin goals. What are you doing? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
No one wants to see that.
Yeah.
yeah. I think
And
that's
that kind of
why.
worries me a little bit because
They're gone.
I think that worries me because we keep trying to play through teams when Tillemans can shoot, McGinn can shoot. He's got a left foot on him. We work into some great areas, and you go. I don't know, mate. I don't know. Do you guys sit in the Holt end or
Yeah, we're
where do you sit?
holding up it. Yeah, yeah,
Upper
Yeah.
Holt.
So we sit in Trinity, right, just on the edge of the 18-yard box towards the Holt, right, and so we've got a great view when we're attacking the north stand, and like you just I'm forever up my seat going fucking shoot, like the chances there, like and you don't do it, and when they do, it's almost like they get bollocking. Like Rogers did it a couple of times last year. He scored a brilliant goal against Brentford. I think it was at home where just
yeah,
picks the ball up quickly, beats his man, whips it into the far corner. In Bailey's season, where in 23-24 season, he scored 8 goals doing just that, running at his man, cutting inside, and just bending it into the far
yeah,
corner. And all of a sudden, that all dried up last year. You go, what are we
yeah.
doing?
What's going on?
So we've got to, the goals thing's a concern, right? We didn't score enough
Oh,
last year, right? It cost us, and now we started the first 2 games of the season looking like we could play all day and not score. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So this is. At what point do we start to get concerned? I'm not. No panic at the moment. There's 36 games to go, plenty of time to turn it around, and I'm confident we've got the players to do it. But you do start to question it, particularly with that performance at Man United at the end of the season and the Crystal Palace game. You go, I don't know, like where's that fight and that desire? And when you
yeah,
going back to my previous point, when you lose key players and the squad's weak, are the players going? I'm not up for this. And if they're not up for it, because we're actually an aging team as well, aren't we? Ollie's going to
yeah,
turn 30, Mings is 31, Dini's get cracking on a bit. And we've got these replacements, but he's not playing the youngsters. I'd love my ideal back 4 would be Maatson at left back, Mings and Konza in the middle, Garcia at right back. Right, I've liked what I've seen of Garcia. He made one mistake against Liverpool last year, but
Yeah.
other than that, likes to get forward, delivers early crosses. Right, but we're not playing to that strength because Ollie's not making that run in the box either. But what I'm saying is, it gives us that width. You've got an
Yeah.
extra width there. The player that wants to attack that right hand side, it's our weakest point. So, and then you've got the likes of whoever you choose in that midfield. Ultimately, you've got to sacrifice one of them. I don't think you can play Anana, Tillemans, McGinn, and Kamara all together. I think one of them's
No.
got to give, and I think you have Kamara and Tillemans on the pivot. You mentioned it earlier about in terms of Tillemans' best position is playing, picking that ball up and playing that ball through. Like you could, if you go back through all our games that we won comfortably last year, it all goes through Tillemans.
No,
Man City at
100%.
home, like just absolutely tore them apart, mate. Like
Yeah.
it was sensational to watch. And then, getting Rodgers on the ball, like we played some fabulous football, and all of a sudden we've just lost that dynamic, and it's like we're coming backwards, sideways again. And like I don't know about you, it's like PTSD. You go back to Paul Lambert days, Alex McLeish, and you go,
Yeah.
no, don't play
Yeah.
football like that. Don't do it like it's horrible. And then is it that's Emery's instruction, or is it the players taking it on themselves because they've been drilled into keeping possession of the football? Do you know what I mean? And we just haven't got the actual clientele at the
It's an
moment,
odd one.
or the confidence to do what we did.
Yeah, it's an odd one because we spoke about it. That the first year that Emery was here when he took over from Gerrard, we were properly going for teams. We were going all out, get the ball, put them under attack, and then slowly as we've gone through the transition of him getting into Champions League and whatnot, and now looking from going the back end of last year into this year, we have kind of become a bit more reclusive in what we're doing. And I think obviously Emery's so obsessed with control that you said it with Duran there. We kind of lost that little bit of just off the cuff, and you know, Rodgers is still capable of it, but you need stuff like that. And I don't think we'll do the Jackson deal just because of financial reasons. But he's a little bit off the cuff. You never know what he's going to do. He might get sent off, or he might score a hat trick. You never really know what he's going to do. And I kind of feel like we've lost the majority of our players, other than maybe Morgan, that will do something a bit different. We don't really have anyone else in the side that can do that. Again, Guesson might be the player because he's a bit unpredictable, but we've not seen enough of him yet to actually say he's going to be that player. But I just think, it's a big few days ahead.
We need. It's massive, mate. I think we need to look at where the goals are going to come from, because since we lost Douglas Luiz and Diaby, we went from 23-24 season having 5 players on 10 goal contributions to last year having 3. Do you know what I mean? So you kind of, we need goals from not, the precious. The problem is too much pressure then goes on Watkins, and then I'm picking him apart, going, he's missed 33 big chances. But at the same time, you could argue, well, who else is scoring the goals? It was only Rodgers last year. Tillemans was the other one, But other than that, you've got wide players that aren't being utilised. Rashford, Asensio, they obviously chipped in, but it was only over a short period of time, so it wasn't. It's not ideal, right? So we've got to try and rectify that. I think the Palace game coming up on Sunday is at this point, mate, I'm just thinking, just don't lose the game. I think I'll take a point at the moment, because I think Palace are a great side. I've watched them this season.
They are a very good side, Palace.
I watched them in Europe last week. I watched them in the Charity Shield. They've been together now a couple of seasons. They know exactly what they're doing. Even with the loss of Eze, you've got. If money wasn't an option, mate, I'd take Mateta in a heartbeat. I'd take Sarr in a heartbeat, and I'd take Adam Wharton. Those 3 are absolutely devastating in that Palace middle. They know what they're doing, and they've absolutely trounced us, absolutely annihilated us in 4 games last year. It was embarrassing. And what I'm really worried about is that Emery's did the same thing in all 4 matches. Torres played in all of those games, mate. I went to Selhurst Park last year where we lost 4-1. I was devastated. I was just I've travelled all this way. Last minute dash, I managed to get tickets. Drag my daughter out of school early. We're going to London. I've managed to get 4 tickets. We're going. Bombed it down to London. Just about got there for kick-off, right? And it was abysmal. Second half performance was absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, it was shocking.
But again, Cleon, not because it's the clientele, it's the team selection, and I don't think Emery should be impenetrable to criticism, because you got to stand up big counted, and he got it wrong in all those games against Palace. And he's got it wrong in these first 2 games against Brentford and Newcastle. And that's football. Like you take risks, but I also a bit nervous that Emery's got his favourites like Torres because it's his player. He bought him. Rodgers, his player, golden child. Like Rodgers should have been rested last year. And again, you've got someone like Marlon who looks like he's up for it. Has been nothing but, from what I can gather, when in interviews and sort of just completely impeccable, mate. Like when he was left out of the Champions League squad, he was like, bigger picture, like my time will come.
Very
like,
classy.
Saying all the right things.
Yeah.
Very classy. Turns up on the pitch, scores goals. Looks like he's going to make something happen, and can't buy a start. Oh, do you know what I mean? It's just like, even though we're short on anything. So I'm really curious. I mean, I'd love just to get round Bodymore Heath for a day, like as a fly, and see what the conversations are going and what the inside edge is, mate. Because I just we don't know ultimately as fans. Like it's all guesswork. None of us are kind of on that inner circle, right? We're all it's all a matter of an opinion, right? So it would be great to kind of actually pin Emery down and go, what's your thought process here? Like, because, the Torres thing, like, he must have been pulling his hair out. Like, because even if you're playing him, you go, okay, we're not going to leave you one-on-one versus him. And if you are one-on-one, just drop 5 yards. You don't need to go and try and win that battle, because if he skips past you, you're gone. And we all know that in the Premier League, the finer details are the thing that cost you. Because if he doesn't make that mistake, yes, we had a poor game, but we probably draw the game 0-0, and we haven't conceded yet, we haven't scored, but we've got 2 points on the board, and you start to build confidence. But as it is, we lose that goal, and we just don't look like getting anywhere, near the goal. And you've got travelling supporters that are travelling down, paying their money for that. It's not good enough. So, bottom line.
No, but I don't disagree with anything that you said. I mean, essentially, would have been a perfect player to have Saturday. Like I said, I think I think personally for me, and I know me and Jay have spoke about it, and Jay, I'm not even sure if you're still there, but we both think that it's actually a must-win Sunday, just because the international breaks come, the international breaks come in, and whatnot. I mean, like you said, come Monday morning, we might have signed a couple of players, we might have beat Palace, and it seems a little bit more rosy. And again, we're not trying to.
It all looks rosy,
but. He's got to hold his hands up and say he got it wrong. And I think, could we be playing a worse team Sunday? Probably not, because we're just absolutely terrible against Palace. But the optimistic side of me, the optimistic side of me says, we're going to beat them 3-0 or something like that. And we'll be driving home happy. But do you want to give me just before we wrap up? Do you want to give me a prediction for Sunday? Sunday.
Okay, but I'm going to give you 2 because this is what I always do. Head and heart. Right, head and heart prediction. So my kind of sensible one is a 1-1 draw, I think would be superb. My heart says 3-0 Villa. Get out the traps, score an early goal, and finish them off. That's that. I don't know about you guys, but every time I go to Villa Park, I feel like a little kid again for the first time of going there. I get these little butterflies in my belly, like the excitement builds, like the pre-match stuff. Like it's kind of, and you have that hope, and it's the hope that kills you. And usually within 10 or 15 minutes of the game, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, right?
I don't. We've been doing the same thing since we were kids with both our dads. Same routine every week, and then same thing. You think, this is the one. This is the one. Everyone's saying their predictions before the final before the first whistle, and then within about 5 minutes, it's just like, fucking hell, this is shit, and whatnot. But
on to next week. We'll go again next week. But
the trouble is,
right, because it's
what makes it experience.
We have a bloody 3 hour. Yeah, we have a 3 hour drive home as well, so we've got plenty of time to ponder it on the way home, which never helps.
Mate, fair play. I mean, I only have a half-hour drive, but it's enough to kind of get the conversation going. What I'm trying to do, I started it in the last season, is go on TikTok live on the way home from the game to give like a raw reaction, just to kind of
we did it
emotional kind of angry state usually.
Yeah, we did it on after the Newcastle game, because obviously this is the first year where we've actually started doing content and what. So we were like, we've never done a TikTok live. Let's just do one now, see what happens. It weren't too bad. I mean, we obviously weren't. We were okay after the Newcastle game. We were content with the point, but I mean, like I said, I think it's a must-win.
It was a fabulous result at the end, wasn't it, after the red card?
I think everyone would have taken a point.
But, well, I'm waiting for a phone call tomorrow, but I'm hoping that I might be doing a little bit of filming before the game at Witten Arms. So if you guys are around, you want to pop in. I don't know, like you kind of. I'll find out tomorrow afternoon, hopefully. But basically, it's with maybe doing some stuff with Peter with again. We managed to get him on the show a couple of month ago,
Yeah.
mate, and that was purely from doing TikTok live. His dad, no, sorry, his brother, no, not his brother. His son, Steve, dropped me a message, and I was like, I thought it was total bullshit, if I'm honest, right? He went, oh, my dad used to play for the Villa, and I went, oh, go on then, who is it? And he went, Peter With, and I went, he said, I can get you some stuff to donate for your Acorns page. I was like, yeah, well, drop me a DM, and we'll see what happens. And I just thought it was absolute nonsense, mate, if I'm honest. And then he DM'd me, he said, do you want to meet up? And I thought, okay, if he gives me a home address to meet up, I'm not going. Right, but we ended up meeting at this hotel, and it was legit. And I said to my wife, if I'm not back in 2 hours, like, I'm here. Like, this is my location. Like, because the internet's an unsafe place at times, right? But that's kind of snowballed a little bit. So I'm hoping that we can get to do a little bit more work with him. But it's been a bit of a manic weekend for me. And like I say, I was supposed to ring him tonight, but that car crash has just ruined my evening outside. And I was with you guys. I thought I'll give him a bell tomorrow. But if you're about, like, pop on down, like, and we'll say hi and fucking. Maybe I think Peter was supposed to be because it's his birthday on Friday, and originally this game was supposed to be on Friday night. There was the Palace Europa League nonsense going on, and they're playing on Thursday, aren't they now? Yeah. Which I'm hoping will feed into our hands. An away trip to Norway, like, come back a little bit tired and let's smash them. Do you know what I mean? That's the heart. So
yeah, fingers crossed.
Boys, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. I've just realised it's kind of been an hour and 5 minutes into chatting. Like, I just get carried away, guys. You have to tell me to shut up, otherwise I'll just carry on.
Honestly, like I said, we've had a few different people on, and it's just obviously interactions that we try and grow what we're doing. But we really appreciate you coming on. And like I said, your journey's great. Like, if we can emulate something like that, then we'd be doing all right as well. So thanks for coming on.
When you upload this, send me the link and You're welcome. When you've uploaded, send me the link and I'll share it across the socials, mate, and see if we get you a few more subscribers.
Yeah, wicked. We'll leave it there, but hopefully we'll bump into you Sunday, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, there's only one thing left to say then, mate, because I'm going to do it because I do it everywhere. But it's every week we follow the boys in claret and blue. Love it, boys.
Yeah. Cheers. Take care.